Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GM Sports Report, your weekly podcast on all things sports where every play counts. I'm Grant, and I'm here with my co host Mason as we get ready to cover the latest news, headlines, and upcoming events going on in the sports world. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see all things GM Sports Report. Mason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Grant. How are you?
Doing good, man. We're kind of in the slow spot of the sports season throughout the year right now, so not a lot to talk about, but we will dive in and talk about what we can. So, with that being said, we'll start with our hot take of the week. So, I'll let you go ahead.
All right, so my hot take, you kind of touched up on a little bit last week. I think sports in general should just take into consideration what NHL did the past week or two with the Four Nations tournament. I thought that was a great idea. You saw the passion that all the players were playing with, and I think if sports were kind of like basketball, I know it does their FIBA tournaments and stuff, but um, they do their tournaments in, like, some instances, but, like, say, just a specific Four Nations kinda thing between probably the best teams in, countries in the world at that sport, I think would be very entertaining. So, yeah, that's my hot
Yeah.
take.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, look at baseball, for instance, when they do the World Baseball Classic, those are some of the
Mhm.
most alive atmospheres you'll see in all of sports. I mean, they had those games going on in Miami, and it was like USA versus Japan, and it was just absolutely rocking there. So I think whenever your professional sport, you're playing against different, like you're playing for your country and playing against these different nations and stuff. There's a little bit more pride that goes into it, so there's a lot more competitiveness. So I agree. I think the Four
Yeah.
Nations was a great creation by the NHL, replacing their All
Yep.
Star Weekend thing with it. So I thought it was a
Yep.
really good idea. And it'll be interesting to see if like the NBA picks up on that and does their own little spin on that or something like that. We'll have to
Yep.
see. All right, man. I'm sorry. My hot take of the week.
Dude, we're already gonna
We've been
talk about
talking
them
about.
later.
Well, I'm sorry, but they need to be talked about. My hot take of the
Twice?
week.
Twice?
Yep. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
My hot take of the week is that the New York Knicks are not at this moment real contenders. At the time of recording this, they're 0-7 against top three teams in the league. Uh, to me, they have a serious lack of depth. I don't know, like when it comes playoff time, I don't know who you're going to give the ball to off the bench other than McBride. He's the only one that really shows up consistently. They've shown defensive struggles against these top teams. They've been good
Mhm.
defensively against these weaker teams and stuff like that, but against these top tier teams, they have shown defensive struggles. Specifically, Carl Anthony Towns in the paint has looked brutal. And just something that baffles me is that they completely gutted their roster and future for Mikal Bridges and Carl Anthony Towns. And I think Carl Anthony Towns has worked out pretty good. And Mikal's looked all right, but he hasn't looked like 5 first-round picks all right. I think you already had a contending team with the team you had last year. And I think you had such a better situation with young players. You had depth, you had draft assets, you had tradable contracts, and your best player was only making 27 M's a year. And so I feel like you're really set up good there where you only need to like tinker with a couple of things and run it back, so to speak. But now I mean, they definitely are going all in. And right now, going 0 for 7 against these top teams, it's not looking too good. But I will say this, I think they're a really good team and I think they can turn it around. It's just obviously you never want to see like a team that you think is like an all in, like I want to win team go 0 for 7 against these top teams. But that's just my hot take of the week.
I'll kinda, talk about that real quick. So, as a fan, obviously, of the New York Knicks, it's been a very, I'd say it's been pretty predictable whenever we're going up against teams such as, like Cleveland and, Boston specifically. Boston's been kinda killing us this season from the first game of the season, literally lost by 35, 2 straight games against them, and then just lost by, 13 against them. And Cleveland, also another team we've been struggling against. Like you said, it's just defensive possessions that we can't, just hold down on, and depth as well. Miles is the go-to guy whenever he's hurt. We kind of put in Kolek, but Kolek's just too young to kind of have him hold on, like just run the
Right.
offense through him. So we have Landry Shamet. He's a good player. I wouldn't say that he is like the star off the bench though. He's definitely a good role player for the bench. And yeah, it's definitely a upsetting, kind of going through this rough spot. But hopefully we can kind of get the wins when we need them, and then go into the playoffs with a different mentality. So, yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if they make any adjustments. Maybe the buyout market will have an option for them to pick up. So we'll see. I don't think they're completely like, it's a full panic mode,
Yeah,
but it is a
yeah.
little eye raising when you see that stat.
It's
I know that
concerning.
happened with
Yeah.
the Heat a couple seasons ago when we were the 1 seed. Sure, we were the 1 seed, but it didn't matter because we weren't beating these like top tier teams. So I think that does play a factor in the long run, but I don't think it's time to fully panic yet. All
Yeah.
right. Now we're going to go for our underdogs of the week. So, Mason, I'll let you go ahead and start. Who's your underdog of the week?
All right. Mine is the Portland Trailblazers' shooting guard, Anthony Simmons, or Simons, sorry.
Simon.
28 points to beat Utah. Yeah, just had a great performance.
Yeah. I think Anthony Simons is a talented young player. He's kind of been in talks of like that guy that's on the fringe of breaking out to being a star. He hasn't quite made that jump yet, but he's still pretty young. I'd like to say he's around Tyler Hero's age, so around there.
Yeah, he's 25.
So,
I looked him up.
yeah, so
Can't see.
we'll see. He always has some solid games, but he's never taken that step to being like a full blown star. But it will be interesting to see. My underdog of the week is a guy that has had a pretty good season all around this year, but it's not being talked about at all. And that's Josh Giddey from the Chicago Bulls. In his last 3 games, he's averaged 25 points per game, 13 rebounds, and 6.7 assists. So he's looked really solid. And something I feel like people forget about Josh Giddey is he's only 22 years old. Like, this guy is young, and he has like that potential to be like a star. He can get you a triple double on any given night. He's really versatile. He's a decent defender, and that can always improve, when you're only 22 years old. So I think it's pretty good numbers that he's put up over the last 3 games, and I think it deserves being talked about. So yeah, Josh Giddey is my underdog of the week.
Nice.
Why are you smirking like that?
No, nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of the NBA, we're going to go slide over there because that's really the only active season kind of going on right now worth talking about. So we're going to start with what we do every week, our team and player of the week. So, Mason, I'll let you go ahead and start with your team of the week. Who is it?
All right, so my team of the week is a team that I think we're going to be talking about a pretty big amount in this little segment, and that's the Detroit Pistons, 7-0, last 7 games, and play Boston tomorrow. Just been showing great promise, and I know as a Piston fan, I'm sure Tommy is very happy to see the switch from last season to this season. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also picked the Detroit Pistons. I've probably picked them for team of the week like 4 separate times over the course of the season.
Yeah.
I'm very high on them. I love Cade Cunningham. That man is becoming a superstar in front of our very own eyes. He's looked absolutely fantastic. He had that big game against Atlanta a couple of nights ago where I think he had like 38 points and double-digit assists and almost double-digit rebounds. Just absolutely crazy numbers. He's so good. He's so young. Like, that is a superstar in the making right there. And I think he is the most underrated player in the league this season. He is not being talked about enough, and he is just being absolutely phenomenal. What they've done with that team has been really impressive. The build they've made, having guys like Malik Beasley and then Jalen Duren, who's a really good young center that's stepped in and played really well. So I'm very interested to see where it plays out because at this time they're 6th in the East, which I'm sure a lot of people weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And they're only 1.5 games back from 4th place, so they are on the fringe here to make a real shot at having a chance at a playoff run. And it will be interesting to see this young group get those playoff reps and see how they handle it, how Cade Cunningham handles the playoffs, all those sorts of things. It will be very interesting to see. And I think they're just a very fun group to watch. And like you were kind of saying, Tommy must be happy because it's probably the best Pistons team that's been around in the last 25 years by the looks of it. So, good for the Pistons, good for Detroit fans. And I'm a huge Cade Cunningham fan. I was telling you last night, since the Heat are no longer relevant, my 2 teams going forward are going to be the Pistons and Rockets. So, yeah, shout out Detroit Pistons. All right. Now, who is your player of the week?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of already touched up on him. That's Cade Cunningham. He's just throughout the season, 26 points per game and almost 10 rebound or assists 22, 26 points per game and almost 10 assists per game. Sorry. Yeah, he's
You're
been
good.
phenomenal. And really leading that Detroit team. So yeah.
Yeah. For my player of the week, because we're only a few games after All-Star break, so it's not really like a huge set in stone player of the week for this
Yeah.
previous week. I just kind of went with the guy who's been leading and scoring since the All-Star break, and I bet it's not who you're expecting. It is Mikal Bridges' brother, Miles Bridges, and he is
Okay.
leading since All-Star break with 105 points. He's averaging 26 points per game and 7 rebounds in that time. And yeah, just pretty interesting stat. I felt like I needed to shout him out because you never really talk about Miles Bridges unless it's a bad thing. Those who know. And yeah, so shout out Miles Bridges, 105 points since the All-Star break, leading the NBA. All right. Now we're starting to get a good idea of who's really competitive and who's not competitive. So this next part, I want to kind of get your idea of who the biggest frauds in the NBA are and who the biggest underdogs in the NBA are. So Mason, I'll let you go ahead and start with you. Who is your fraud in the NBA?
It's the only team I've really been watching this season that much, and I would have to say the Knicks just against good teams. And it's really been upsetting to see how it's been playing out because I'd like to at least see them be close, if that makes sense. Like that Thunder game that we played a couple months ago, that was amazing. Where we were holding the lead pretty much the whole game, and then they just come out in the fourth quarter and just start dominating. It's like, that sucks, but at least we know we can compete with these guys. And then when we go up against Boston, and we just get blown out. It's like, man, like what the heck? So it really makes you kind of sit back and think and be like, can we really compete like to get into the finals or like even have a chance at winning ECF? Getting there actually. So yeah, I'd have to just say my Knicks right now.
Yeah, we can talk about them a little bit more. Do you think there's anyone that they can go out and get, whether it's the buyout market or like anything? Like, because that depth, it's like the real concern when I look at that team when it comes to playoff time. You need to have guys that can fill in because there's going to be injuries, there's going to be guys banged up, there's going to
Yeah.
be scouting reports on certain players, so other players are going to have to come in and do a good job. Do you see like a path of like anyone who can kind of come in and sort of uh, play a big role for them, or do you think that you're kind of just locked in for the rest of the season and what it is what it is?
I personally, I'm not too like as familiar with the names of like majority of like the bench players or the role players as you are, so I can't really give a definitive answer of who I think we could get or would be possible to get. I think right now that uh, Thibodeau and Leon are kind of just set on who we have. I mean, they made it pretty clear going into the season that these are the guys that we have and these are the guys that we're going to rock with. But I would love to see some more depth, maybe some more acquisitions. But I don't see anything happening.
Here, I can give you a few names that are on the
Hmm.
buyout market. There is Mo Bamba, who's a center who I think could help out if Mitchell
Hmm.
Robinson can't get back fully. Bones Highland, a solid guard that can show some good scoring ability. There's Reggie Jackson, who's a good spot up shooter. You have Josh Richardson, who started out the year on the Miami Heat, really solid
Mm.
defender, kind of shaky on offense. You got Jaden Springer and you got Christian Wood. Those are kind of the big names. There's some other guys, Patrick Baldwin, Jalen Hood Shafino, but those are kind of the
Yeah.
bigger names in the buyout market. I think some of those names, if the Knicks can get their hands on them, that
Hmm.
those pieces can really help out the depth. I think Josh Richardson. I don't know if that's just because I watch him on the Miami Heat, but I think he can help you guys out. Solid defender, and he can shoot the three a little bit. And maybe if Mitchell Robinson can't come back fully healthy, you can get one of those guys like Christian Wood or Mo Bamba and try it out there. So I think that if I was the Knicks and I saw that we have this problem right now, I think it wouldn't hurt to look into the buyout. Now that I'm thinking about this, this might be completely irrelevant because of where you're at salary wise. If you're over the second apron, you might not be able to get any of these buyout candidates. So I don't know where you guys
Yeah.
are at as far as the apron rules, but you know we'll see what happens because I think it's very
Yeah.
interesting
For
what's
sure.
going on over there right now.
I
All right.
don't.
Yeah. It makes me a little happy. I'm not gonna lie. Um,
Whatever.
for my frauds, you're gonna be happy with this one at least. I'm going with the Indiana Pacers.
Yep.
I just don't think their team is gonna do what they did last year. I know they're
Heck
on a little
no.
bit of a hot streak right now. Actually, they're not really. I think they're 4-6 or something like that in their last 10. No, 6-4, I think, in their last 10. So they're like decent, but they're not like phenomenal. And Tyrese Halliburton has been stepping up a little bit over the last couple weeks. Miles Turner's been doing better and stuff like that. But I just don't see them having as big as a run as they had last year. I think they kind of peaked in that run with that build. And I think they need to kind of maybe, get a couple new pieces or something if they want to really make a run out of finals. So they're kind of my frauds. Not that they're like considered favorites by any means, but I could easily see them being first round exits this year. Like I just can
Yeah.
see that happening. So that's my pick for frauds. Now we'll shift to the other side of the spectrum. Who is your biggest underdog team in the NBA?
So I was looking at like the standings and stuff, and um, what kind of shocked me is like the past few games that they've not been playing pretty well, but they're in a position to kind of make a push and have a chance at the playoffs, and that is the Clippers. They're not totally out of it yet, but they're also not, in the greatest spot. But if they were to kind of pick it up and get the wins that they need to get, they could potentially, get in that play-in kind of game. So I think them, and then obviously the Rockets and Pistons have been doing pretty well. But yeah, those are my underdogs.
Yeah, I like your Clippers pick because I feel like James Harden's putting up a very quiet, solid season. I
Hmm.
know he's well over 20 points and almost at 10 assists, and he's having a really good year. Norman Powell, who I think should have been an All Star
Yeah.
this year, is having an absolutely phenomenal season. And then you guys got a guy like Zubac who's stepping in at that center role and playing a really solid season as their center. And Kawhi Leonard is getting more and more comfortable. He came back from injury not too long
Yep.
ago, and over time, I'm sure it's going to keep ramping up. And Kawhi Leonard is Kawhi Leonard at the end of the day. So I think they definitely are a team to watch out for. So I'm glad you made that pick. My pick is I said it last week. It pains me to say it, but the Golden State Warriors are the biggest underdog team in the NBA right now because they're ranked like ninth place right now, but they are 6-1
Hmm.
since the Jimmy Butler trade. And if you would go and watch that team play with Jimmy Butler on that team, they look like a championship contended team. The vibes there are at an all time high. Draymond Green has looked good for the first time in months. Braden Pajemski, their sophomore, has been phenomenal as of late. Uh, Stephen Curry obviously is looking like Stephen Curry. Buddy Hield has kind of started getting back into his rhythm. So they are the biggest underdogs in my eyes because you got Steve Curry, you got Stephen Curry, and you got Jimmy Butler going into a playoff run. I'd take them against a lot of teams. So I think that they are the biggest underdogs in the NBA, and it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. As much as it hurts me to see Jimmy Butler winning on another team, obviously we saw that quote from the other game where he was saying like, "Oh, I'm glad I'm on this side now," and stuff like that. It does hurt as a Heat fan to see, but at the same time, there's no denying that they're a really solid team, and I would not be surprised if they make some noise come playoff time. Another team that I don't think is really an underdog, but they're kind of like heating up is the Milwaukee Bucks. They started out the season
Yeah, I
very
saw that
bad,
too.
to the point where like there's rumors about Giannis being talked and trade rumors and stuff like that. But since then, they've really turned it on and they've looked really good. And Giannis and Dame, I'll take that duo against a lot of teams in the East because I don't think the East is as strong as some people think. So come playoff time, they can make a lot of noise too. And I wouldn't say they're really underdogs, but they're definitely a team to watch out for.
Yeah. Real quick before we go into
Go ahead.
the next segment, I want to get your thoughts on the whole Wemby situation and how that could
Mm.
possibly unfold. Because that's some pretty
Well,
big news.
obviously that's something you don't want to see. Blood clot. It's been brought up in NBA a lot of times. Sometimes it's no big deal. Sometimes we see like with Chris Bosh where he had to retire, but that situation was different because that was a blood clot in his lung and it wasn't
Mm.
isolated. This one with Wemby is isolated, which is what I've heard the best case scenario when you have a blood clot. So I'm hoping that he'll just be able to recover and pick up right where he left off coming into next season. It does stink because he was having an absolutely phenomenal season. He
Oh
was
yeah.
Sherlock for Defensive Player of the Year, and now he's not going to be able to win
Absolutely.
that award, which I think is this is a whole different conversation, but I think that's just terrible that he's not able to win that award now because he missed too many games. He was by far the best defender when he was playing,
Yeah.
but I digress. Yeah, it stinks to see, but I'm hoping, and I think overall that he's going to be able to recover and bounce back from this and have a good next season. It does stink to see, though, after just getting De'Aaron Fox. They looked like a team that might be able to make the play in,
Yeah.
make a little bit of noise, but we'll have to wait till next season to see how that group works out. What do you
Some
think
people
about it?
said, I think it obviously sucks, but I did see some people saying that it's just a great setup for them to possibly get Cooper Flag. I just couldn't
Yeah, I have
imagine
seen
him
that.
being on
I
that.
have seen that.
That would be ridiculous.
Now look,
But yeah,
if they capture the flag, that team's going to be absolutely crazy come the following season. You got
ridiculous.
Stephen Castle, De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Victor Wembanyama. You got all kinds of studs on that team if you get Cooper Flag. So that would be crazy if they get him. But we'll
Yeah,
see. All right,
cool.
now we're gonna slide over to the MLB because we're in the middle of spring training right now, or not the middle. We started spring training,
Yeah.
and I don't know about you, but I've just loved turning on these games in the afternoon and just watching them. I'm just so happy baseball's back. So I kind of just want to have a quick little spring training discussion. What have you seen from the Yankees so far? Do you like what you're seeing? Prospects? How has Jason Dominguez looked? All those things. I just want to get your thoughts right now.
Yeah, so honestly, I couldn't be happier. Just turning on the game and just listening to baseball again and just watching it. Um, been Our young guys have been doing pretty well. Got giving us a lot of good production. Right now, we're 1-3 on the season. Got a game canceled yesterday versus the Red Sox because of weather in Florida. It's just been horrible.
Mm.
Um, so Jason Dominguez, he's been pretty well. He's been getting a lot of good contact hits, as a lot of our guys have been also, but not a lot of hits that have been produced, if that makes sense. So we'll get like 3 or 4 hits a game, which is, it's still early in spring training. But yeah, he had this viral clip I'm sure a lot of people saw of like him trying to track the ball and then just went to the right, and
Yeah,
then
that
they
happens though.
actually threw the guy out at home. So that was funny. But yeah, it's been very interesting to see a lot of the names I don't know too well just because I'm not into the farming system. But yeah.
Yeah, Mason, I got a quick trivia question for you since we're going to be getting into the
Ah,
trivia for me
crap.
later. Who is the only team that is 5-0 in spring training right now?
Ah, boy, you guys have played 5 games already.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Who is it?
Oh, I guess the Cubs. Yeah, you're
Darn right it
asking.
is. The Chicago Cubs are 5-0 in spring training. No, I'm just joking. I'm not gonna sit here and overreact and be like, we're going to the World Series or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. It's just spring training games. I could care less if we win or lose. But I will say what I have seen from the players that have been playing has been very encouraging. We haven't played too much of our major league guys yet. The major league guys we've played that's played a decent amount have been Miguel Amaya, our catcher, and Michael Bush, our first baseman. And those two guys have been absolutely lighting it up right now. Bush just had a 2-run homer last game. Miguel Amaya, I think, is 5 of 8 right now with a home run and 2 doubles. So he's looked amazing. Because if Miguel Amaya can hit for us and be a good hitting catcher, that elevates our ceiling so much more for this Cubs team. So that's very encouraging to see. And our prospects, we have a very good farm system for everyone who knows. And those guys have looked really good so far. Specifically, Kevin Alcantara, our top outfield prospect, he's looked phenomenal. I forget what exactly he's hitting. I know it's above 500 right now, and a
Mm.
lot of RBIs, playing good in the field. He got a little bit of a call up towards the end of last season, but he didn't get a lot of playing time. But with how stacked the Cubs outfield is, I don't see him getting a lot of playing time this year either. But if one of the guys go down, it's good to know that we have a prospect like this we can call up in the season and would feel comfortable having him come in and play a role for us. So all our prospects have looked really solid. Our pitching has looked pretty good. Matthew Boyd, who was one of our big starting pitcher acquisitions this offseason, pitched yesterday, and he went 2 shutout innings. So yeah, I've liked what I've seen from the Cubs so far. It is only the beginning of spring training, and I'm not going to overreact to the whole 5-0 thing because that doesn't matter at the end
Mhm.
of the day. But it is good as a Cubs fan to see things kind of heading towards the right direction. It looks like so.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next thing I want to talk about spring training, is kind of what stole the show so far, and that is the new ABS system they have placed in spring training, where batters and catchers and pitchers are all able to challenge a ball or strike call, and if you win the challenge, you get to keep going. And they've been doing this in the minors, I think, for a season now. And it's not going to come into the league this year, but it could in the following. I just want to kind of get your opinion on it. Do you think the ABS system is good? Do you think it's bad? What are your thoughts on it?
I love it. I think everyone kind of needs a little bit of just to have that challenge and just to kind of see in their back pocket. Um, you see how often guys in like the NFL use their challenges on even in the NBA, there's always challenges. So I think it keeps the umps on their toes to kind of just make sure that they're calling the right calls and like what they see they actually call. So I'm sure there can be some pretty what's the word? Um, dang, I can't find the word, but just calls you think are gonna go one way but go the other. I think it could be very interesting to see.
Right. Yeah.
I
Um,
can't,
when I look at the ABS system, I can see both sides, right? I like it. I think it's cool. Um, how many times are you watching your team try to put together a rally or try to get out of a jam or something, and an umpire makes a terrible call on a pitch, and you're like,
yeah.
man, if we just got that pitch back, we could be in a whole different situation right now. Baseball, a lot of the times, does come down to a singular pitch that an umpire can mess up the call. So I think that it's great that there's potential for that to be eliminated from the game. But there's also a side of me that just loves how human the game of baseball is. And
Yeah.
call it traditionalist or whatever. I do like when sometimes, an umpire makes a mistake. It makes the game interesting. But I do know majority of fans are going to be all for this ABS system. But I can see both sides of the argument. I mean, think about it. How many times has a catcher just kind of misread a pitch, but it's still in the strike zone. But since they didn't catch it good, it's looked like they called it a ball, even though it was a strike. That's going to eliminate that. But then again, that brings me to a whole nother point on where I could see the other side, where it's like, part of a catcher being a good catcher is being able to frame balls and strikes really good. So
Mhm.
that takes away that framing won't matter anymore with the ABS system. So I can see both sides. I think ultimately they will go to the ABS system this following season. I think a lot of fans, a lot of coaches, a lot of players are speaking out on it, saying they like it. So it will be interesting to see if it gets implemented into the MLB soon. And yeah, I'll just go from there. I'm on both sides of the fence. I can see the pros and cons from both sides. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah, the word I was looking for is controversial. So that's
Gotcha.
I could
Okay.
not find that word for the life
Thank you
of
for
me. But
clarifying
yeah.
that.
Yeah, dude, it was eating me up.
All right. All right, now we're gonna slide over to the UFC because they finally announced the UFC 314 card, which is going to be held in Miami, and Ilya Taporia has vacated his belt, and it is going to come down to Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez in 314 for that fight. So, what are your initial thoughts when you hear those two big names on a card in
Dude, I
Miami?
absolutely love it. I love it. I don't think you can get more of like two rowdy guys just going at it. I'm a big Diego Lopez fan, but I'm also a big Volk fan. So I'm honestly scared that I'm gonna see Diego Lopez like sleep Volk, but I'd also be happy, because he won. But
Yeah.
I could also see it going the other way, Volk finally getting, the belt back and, showing that he still got it. So I think either way it plays out, it'll be great. I can see it really just being a win-win. I'm very excited to watch it.
Yeah. As far as predictions go, I'm not going to go too heavy into that yet because it is still a little
Nah,
while
yeah,
away. But just
yeah.
like when I heard that card and I saw that that was going to be the main event, I was so gassed because those are probably two of my
Mhm.
favorite fighters right now. Is Volk and Diego Lopez. I love
Yep.
both of those fighters, And I just think that's going to be an absolute like battle. Like I think the two of them are going to be throwing
Mm.
absolute shots at each other. I think it's going to be a very entertaining fight, and it will be interesting to see who gets the belt. But something that's kind of leading to me to the next point is obviously Topuria has vacated the belt, which means there's no longer going to be double champs in the UFC anymore. What do you think about that? Do you think that that's a good move by Dana White, or do you think that you should be able to go get a second belt if you want to?
I heavily despise that decision by Dana White. I think if you're good enough, you should be able to defend both belts, and be able to claim that, you know, title of double champ. Because my favorite quote probably of all time is the double champ gets to do what the heck he wants. So,
Yeah,
um, and it's just like if he just said champ, it wouldn't be as meaningful. But double champ, like
right.
it adds so much more meaning just to these guys and like what they're fighting for. So I don't like it, and I hope he switches it back at some point. But who knows?
Yeah, I agree. I don't like that you can't be a double champ anymore. And another reason I don't like it is we saw Alex Pereira. He might have it. He could have had a chance to be a three belt
Yeah,
champ, which would have been a
3.
triple
Yep.
champ. And now we're not going to be able to see that anymore with this new rule that Dana White has implemented. I don't like it either. I think eventually they're going to have to go back to it because these fighters are getting
Have
so
to.
much more better, and a
Yeah.
lot of these guys are on fringe of two different weight classes. I think why not? Like I think it's more entertaining that way. Like you said, one of the most entertaining UFC moments is Conor McGregor yelling, "The double champ does what the
Mhm.
heck he wants." And yeah, I like when there's double champs involved, and it really etches your name into history. And I don't like that
Oh
it's going
yeah,
away because I think Taporia could have made a really good double champion. Or I think a guy like
absolutely.
Islam could have made a really good double champ. I think
Yep.
Alex Pereira could have made a really good double champ. So yeah, it's interesting to see that decision, but it is what it is. I am super gassed for this UFC 314 event though.
Oh yeah. Quick question to end it out. Do you think Diego Lopez will keep rocking the mullet for his championship title?
Look, I love Diego Lopez as a fighter. I despise that mullet though. That mullet needs to go. I think he's gonna keep it though. I mean, it's kind of his stain, I feel like.
Yeah, it's
But
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be there. It's got to be.
It
So
shows his rowdiness.
yeah, yeah,
Adds to
I
his
guess so.
character. All
All right,
right.
now we're gonna hop into our last segment of the day, which I'm not looking forward to, and that is our trivia segment.
Do you
What do you,
know ball?
yeah, do you know ball? I didn't know ball too much last time we did this, so not
I
feeling
think you
too
got
confident
this.
going into this one. And yeah,
Nah,
let's get
you got this
started.
one. All right. This is probably the hardest question to start off with, but I think you got it. You should be able to clean sweep. Who is the Heat's career leader in points?
Oh, Dwayne Wade.
Yep, there you go. Yep, you're gonna get all of them. Who is the Heat's first player to win league MVP?
I feel like this D Wade, right?
I'll give you a no. I'll give you a
Or is it
quick hint.
LeBron?
Yeah, it's LeBron.
It's LeBron. Okay, I figured it was. I was
Yeah.
thinking Finals MVP. I don't know why I thought fine. Okay,
No,
yes,
no, no.
LeBron.
All right. What year did the Chicago Cubs were the Chicago Cubs founded?
Oh, that is. Gosh, that's so long ago.
Yeah, but you were just
Early
talking about it the
1900s.
last week.
It was early 1900s. 1903.
Oh seven, but that's close
Oh
enough.
seven.
Off of
Okay, yeah.
off of centuries, I think that's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
close
I know it
enough.
was early 1900s, but yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Long time
Who
ago.
was who was Cubs manager during the 2016 World Series
Oh, Joe Madden. I love that guy.
win? I thought you were about to be like, "Oh, I don't remember." I was about
No,
to
I love Joe Madden.
say
I think
some.
about Joe Madden at least 5 times a week.
That's
Pause.
crazy. All right. For the somewhat of a sweep, what year did the Dolphins go undefeated?
72.
Yes, you got them all. Good job,
Let's
buddy.
go. I
You know
needed that. I
ball. What
needed a
a
revival week.
way to come back off of last week's performance. That was
Thank you. I
amazing.
appreciate that. I needed that.
Yep.
I was feeling really low on myself after the
Yeah,
last
no,
one, so
dude.
I'm glad I was able to revive myself a little bit there.
And they were all questions that showed ball on those teams.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
they weren't just tossed up easy questions. So
I agree. It's gonna be your turn next week. So be on the
yep,
lookout for that. That
man.
pretty much gonna wrap up the episode. So thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of the GM Sports Report, where every play counts. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be able to see our weekly episodes on all things sports. For additional content, check the description to see links to our Instagram and TikTok account. This is Grant and Mason. We're signing off for now. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, guys.